Hello and welcome to the Sophisticulture podcast. My name is Umnia. I am your editor-in-chief speaking. This week, it is just me yapping. Woo! I don't know how many people are going to be excited for that. I'm very excited for this, obviously, because there's nothing I like more than yapping. And specifically this week, the yapping is going to be of top tier quality because we are getting ready for the Oscars, ladies and gentlemen, that are next Sunday, not this Sunday, next Sunday. If you're in the UK, it's on ITVX. I'm not getting paid to say that. I just want everyone to know it's for free on the line. ITVX, you can just watch the Oscars. And the reason I'm also saying that is that we are doing a watch party here on YouTube. We are not streaming the Oscars itself. We are streaming our reactions to it. So if you want to be in a group chat, basically, a video group chat with me and the coolest people I know here in London, and a couple of other special guests, fingers crossed, next Sunday the 15th, you'll find that the live stream for that event is already up, and you can click the notify me button. And you can also subscribe to the Obscure channel, the YouTube channel, right here, right now, to get a notification when we go live. It's going to be so much fun. I have wanted to do something like this for a really long time. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. We might do a couple of different little giveaways throughout the night. It's going to be fun. But while we prepare for that fateful Sunday to arrive, we have some news. So much news. Since we last discussed, since we last chatted, we have had the Paramount Warner Brothers merger, and we've also had a bunch of drama with Timothée Chalamet in the past 24 hours, which is funny. And of course, we discussed last time we were chatting about the BAFTAs. And the unspoken thing that has happened around the BAFTAs is the chances of Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo getting a win at the ceremony next Sunday have increased. Now, that is tertiary, because the damage that was done that night is irreversible, and also could have very easily been avoided, which we've already discussed. We don't need to go back over that, but it genuinely has caused an irreparable damage to the standing of the British Broadcasting Corporation and the British in general, not just to the American audiences, but across the world, and certainly within the UK. Everyone's absolutely fed up. But I say all of that to say, there has been some interesting developments since. And I'll be trying to keep an eye on chat, but my priority for this broadcast is to get through everything, because there is so much to get through. So I want to start by going through my Oscars predictions, if you do not mind. There are still some gaps in my knowledge, but I have officially watched all of the Best Picture nominees, and that's where I'd like to start. Funny. And some amazing news has come out of this absolutely horrific war that has been started in Iran, by the way. So we'll get into all of that in a second. So, and it has to do with the Paramount merger. It looks like it may have trouble because it is Saudi funded, and the Saudis are currently under attack as part of this war, and so the deal may not go through because of that. One silver lining to the absolute abhorrent situation right now in Iran, as funded and instigated by the United States of America. So I want to start with Best Picture. So we have all of these nominations for all of these other things. I want to start with Best Picture. Let's go. I'm going all the way down to the end, I think. I think that's where Best Picture is. There we go, Best Picture. So I have now watched everything that has been nominated for Best Picture this year. I've watched Buconia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Secret Agent, Sentiment of Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. It will not surprise you to find out that despite having watched everything that has been nominated this year, either at their premieres or at TIFF or sitting in my bed a week ago, nothing on this list matches the quality of Sinners. Sinners exists on a different plane of cinema. It is simultaneously culturally relevant and important. It is incredibly and impeccably acted. The attention to detail is unparalleled by any of these other films. Some of them get damn near very, very, very close, but nothing is as historically detailed as Sinners. And it really is just a superior story. It exists in this liminal Spielberg-esque place between blockbuster and prestige art house film. And nothing else on this list comes close. I will talk a little bit about the people who are in that same space. Sorry, I hit the camera there. There are maybe two films on this list that maybe come close to Sinners, in terms of being blockbusters, not in terms of quality, let me be clear, which is Formula One and Frankenstein. Formula One should not be on this list. We all know it shouldn't be on this list. It's unnecessary and it's stupid. No one expected F1 to be on this list. It is not a good movie. It's not structurally sound. It is essentially one big glossy IMAX ad for the Formula One. It's not, and it has an awful message of frickin' boomer supremacy at the center. It's like, this old man could teach you a thing or two. Like, oh God, that movie again. Like, okay, nice try. We're not doing that one. All of the people involved, like I'm looking, there's, the Plan B people and Bruckheimer and stuff. Like, I have no beef with these producers. I have no beef with it as a enterprise. I have beef with it as a film. And Frankenstein is huge in scale and just as detailed. It just didn't hold up. It was too long. And it didn't quite hold up to the same level of structure that Sinners had. But I think if anyone came anything close to trying to do what Sinners did, it was probably Frankenstein. And Guillermo del Toro, you will always be famous. Like, let's not even, I'm not playing any games about Guillermo del Toro's prowess, but also legacy. The one other film I would say tried to be a blockbuster, but Paul Thomas Anderson does not have a blockbuster in him, I'm sorry, is One Battle After Another. Same scope and scale, and actually attempting a similar political message. Very different result, primarily because it was made by a white man, but also just he's made better films within his career, but also, and One Battle After Another was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was not as brilliant as Sinners, right? Well, I'm going to keep doing this. So those are the people who exist on the same budgetary plane, right, as Sinners. So let's rule out any sense that I'm, rewarding it because it was on the biggest screen I could possibly see it on. I saw other things on big screens that were meant for big screens. It was all right. I think in terms of period pieces, we're now looking at Train Dreams, The Secret Agent, and Hamnet, right, as being period pieces that would compete on that same level as Sinners. Train Dreams in no way competes with Sinners, even slightly. Specifically, Train Dreams is a period piece, and it is meant to deal with racial tensions in America over the course of a long period of time, not a short night, kind of a long period of time. But it's the kind of woke that 2011 was. It is so old. This version of woke is so old, right? And I think I've heard a lot of different people have different opinions about what Train Dreams was trying to do. Some people said it was about fatherhood. Some people said it was about loneliness. Some people said it was about tragedy. And I read it as being a film about, futility, because I think films like this over a long enough period of time with the ups and downs of one person's life tend to be films about hope, futility, finding hope, finding futility, these kinds of things, right? It's that axis of, is life utterly random or is there some meaning? What's the meaning of life? Those films, that's what Train Dreams is. And I just feel that there are many other films that have done better conversations on that topic than Train Dreams, and I didn't feel that all that effort put into all of that historical detail, but maybe not so much detail to the characters. I didn't feel there was much detail beyond the main character, and even he was not very broad. He was very broadly drawn. He was an everyman, right? And he somehow managed to be the good guy in every situation. Like he's a good kid, and he was a good guy, and he did in the best situations he did the best, and in the worst situations he held his head up high. Like, that's kind of soft core American propaganda to me. But I had no beef with the film on its lines of communication in that front. I had beef with the film in terms of I didn't feel that it actually accurately communicated anything of value for now and anything of value generally, which that's a subjective opinion. We agree that we are currently having a conversation about art. No, that is a subject. It's always going to be a subjective opinion. So Train Dreams immediately, I'm surprised it actually got nominated. That's how much I don't think it deserves to sit with a couple of these other films. Hamnet is, I think, the most amount of competition that Ryan Coogler has in this entire frame of reference. Begonia doesn't count. Begonia, I'm not even going to touch Begonia. I watched it. We're not going to talk. I wrote a review of the film. I think I've maybe made our video, reading some of that review. I'm so mad at how bad it is, or how banally insignificant Begonia is. I think I may end up having a conversation with Amaris about this next week. Once we get her on the pod, we'll have like a little bonus episode next week. It drives me up the wall, Yorgos Lanthimos. Shout out to him for being Free Palestine. Shout out to him for being on that blacklist that Paramount have. Yorgos Lanthimos, you will always be famous for that. But I cannot stand your movies. I say this lovingly as maybe a niece. I say this as someone who exists much as your junior and probably doesn't have any right to say this, but I absolutely hate your movies. I think you must be a really great guy if you're on that blacklist, because it means you're about that action and you have some sort of developed politic that means you're a rational individual. Your films are ass. And I hate to say it because, I honestly, if it's a choice between not really writing for someone or really, really, really writing for someone, and the difference is that they're willing to speak up for the rights of other people outside of their own, Hollywood bubble, I am gonna fudge it a little bit. If Mark Ruffalo's in a movie, even if I don't like the movie, I am gonna turn up regardless. I'm very much loyal that way. However, your films are so not what I like. They are so not what I like that it is very difficult for me that you are based. Like, it's very difficult for me that you're based and your films are like this, because what do you mean? Like, how? No, I know I'm crashing out. How can you get it and not get it so much? Anyway, I think we'll be talking to Amaris about this next week, so trust we'll have that discussion at some point, but I'm not touching Begonia. Hamnet is the closest anyone has gotten to knocking Sinners off the seat. These other films are fantastic in their own ways, but The Secret Agent, I want The Secret Agent to win a bunch of stuff, but The Secret Agent, the reason it will not compete with Sinners is purely because it was ever so slightly too long and just a little bit slower, right? And I think a lot of Academy voters will not have the patience for that. Forget the Portuguese. It's the actual pacing of the film. But it's a brilliant film. Highly recommend. You should go see it. Give it its time to breathe and you will feel such reward in having watched it. I'm just saying, if we're talking about a competitive ranking here, right? It's not competing. One Battle After Another, also not competing. A little bit too long, and on top of that, brilliantly well shot, not very well structured. And I think that's because it's trying to do a lot of things. He's adapting a book that has many, many different parts to it, and he's been trying to write it for 20 years. He made the masterpiece he wanted to see. However, it's not Sinners. Like it gets to a point. Like, Ryan Coogler is that, like, no one, when this man steps out into the field, no one is competing with him. No one. I want to see a box office weekend between Jordan Peele and Ryan Coogler, because when those two men step onto the field, no one is competing with them. No one. It's a different league of filmmaking. It's a filmmaking that resonates on multiple different angles. It is inherently incredibly timely and somehow completely timeless. And the group of artisans these men are able to command on set, the people they're able to get on board with their vision, and the way they communicate their vision to those people, none of these dude bros can do this. None of these other people, no one is doing it like Ryan Coogler and Jordan Peele. Like, no one. It's unfair to the rest of the industry. Like, it's an unfair advantage of, but I think there is something to it that is, they inherently understand the community-based aspect of filmmaking. They are really apparently incredible to work with. And they have very, very, very crystal clear visions. And these are the recipes of timeless, really, really, really good filmmaking. It's why I'm looking forward to Spielberg's return this year. I see these men on that level, obviously, and they're not even that far into their careers yet, but they are 100% batting at the Spielberg average, right? So Hamnet is what I'm trying to say. Hamnet is the closest anyone has come, because Chloe Zhao is another one of these once-in-a-lifetime filmmakers but her magic is in the simplicity and the minimalism. What I think Hamlet is let down by is the lack of minimalism of one of its actors, which I don't want to start more beef. I don't want to start more beef. But there is one actor in Hamlet doing entirely too much. And it's not the kids. And it's not Jessie Buckley. But there's one person, who may have been doing entirely too much. But it's fine. It's just that I just get this sense that there is a very specific calm. There is a tranquility to the way Zhao makes films. And if you're not tuned into that, it can be very glaringly obvious in the film. So that's where I think Hamlet's let down. Marty Supreme is good. I liked Marty Supreme. The things they're doing at the Marty Supreme factory, I'm not mad at it. Shout out to the Safdie, Josh the Safdie, the Josh Safdie. It works. It's an amazing metaphor for, American, American exceptionalism and ambition. Yeah, it is. It's the story of American imperialism post-World War II as told through a Jewish kid from, New York, Brooklyn, that area, right? Okay, cool. Vibes. It only resonates on that note, which is a great note to resonate on. Like, you nailed it. You did some real politics. We love that for you. We're living. But, that's it. That's the only note it resonates on. Sinners is resonating on multiple different notes. So Marty Supreme resonates on one level. Sinners resonates on multiple. It is typical. I don't want to call it just Spielberg filmmaking because it is golden age Hollywood filmmaking. You aren't just thinking about one audience. You aren't just thinking about one idea. You're thinking about one idea in the context of everything that surrounds it. Sinners resonates on multiple levels, not just because it's a story about the concept of vampirism, both as literally vampires, but also in the case of cultural appropriation and what culture means to preserve and which forces are acting for and against the preservation of that culture. He then goes, okay, and how does that apply across different people's experience of culture and race? It's not just, this is vampirism, here's the one explanation of vampirism. This is vampirism, and here's the one story we're telling about vampirism from multiple different perspectives at once. And that's just the vampirism theme. You can start sending it off into metaphors all over the place because it is a rich text, okay? A rich text. There is a richness and a rich text to Marty Supreme, but it resonates at every level on the metaphorical line of American exceptionalism and ambition. One theme, one resonance. And so it applies across that resonance in different ways, but it is one resonance. It's one theme, one resonance. It doesn't do what Sinners does, which is the one theme and one resonance resonates into other concepts, other cultures, other ways of mirroring one another. How, God, now I'm forgetting every character's name in that frickin' movie. Haley Steinfeld's character. How she interacts with the concept of culture versus how the vampire, the white Irish guy, how he interacts with the concept of culture as it exists as robbing him, right? And then how Smoke and Stack interact with the concept of culture, both financially and then also in terms of family. And it just, every single character is coming at the theme from a different angle. Whereas on Marty Supreme, all the characters are hitting kind of the same angle. They're all reinforcing one angle, which is very typical for independent cinema. Reinforce the one theme over and over and over again. You're on the one theme. Train Dreams is the same, reinforcing on the same line. That's great filmmaking. I'm not knocking that filmmaking, but you're not gonna, on a technical level, I don't think Sinners is going to be beat by someone going on the one line, right? Sinners existing on multiple planes of analysis gives it an edge. It also makes it a more entertaining film. It doesn't mean that a one-line reinforcement is not an entertaining film. Marty Supreme, very entertaining film. Sinners is more entertaining. It has more rewatch value because of the way it works on those multiple levels. The Secret Agent also hits one theme across one axis. I think because it is a unique story to me. I wasn't raised with the stories of fascist Brazil. I wasn't raised about the, learning about the dictatorship. I feel that watching films specifically from Brazil each year tells me so much more about them as a people, as a culture. I learn so much. But again, The Secret Agent operates on one plane. Very beautiful movie. Very good at operating on that plane. It is one plane though. And so again, nothing... Right, and so this is what I'm saying. Even now with sentimental value, this is very common for art house and independent cinema. One theme hits once, and you reinforce that theme across, in the same way, across all the events and all the characters. Even in sentimental value, it's very obvious in sentimental value what the primary theme is that has to do with this core sadness at the heart of this family that might be a generational trauma. But both the dad character and the daughter character hit that theme in parallel, which is, again, very typical for indie cinema. You're not going to beat Sinners with that. And I'm not saying that that's what people vote for. I'm not saying that it matters if the Academy Awards, the Academy voters are thinking the way I'm thinking. I'm saying in terms of my analysis of who should win, the reason Sinners should win is because it operates on multiple planes of thematic resonance. A lot of these don't, because they are art house and independent films. And this is what Ryan Coogler understands as a blockbuster filmmaker who makes really good blockbuster film. Like, blockbuster film people will be watching in 20, 30, 40 years' time. Rewatch value comes from thematic resonance that exists outside of one plane. Art house cinema tends to have this belief that one idea tackled one way on one thematic plane is the purest way of attacking a thematic story, a story in general, not even a thematic story. Just hitting it once on the same avenue is how to approach a story. And you will hear that in a lot of screenwriting classes, and you'll hear that in a lot of pitching reviews. And everywhere you go as an independent filmmaker, they're saying, hit the one theme the same way. And the reason Sinners works is because they hit the theme from multiple different angles at once, and he can keep all of that in his head. And there's the detail, the historical detail, the cultural detail. There were like 5 or 6 different cultural advisors and consultants, each for different groups of people that were represented by Sinners. Like the scene in the middle, the burning the barn down, like a barn burner, right? That scene is not just magic because it's good. It's not just magic because it's technically proficient. It's not just magic because how the hell do you think of something like this? It's not just magic because of the way the music comes in. It's not just magic because of all of the different aspects of culture that are included. It's magic because care was taken to do it right. This wasn't someone flexing their technical prowess. Ryan Coogler wasn't going, watch this. He was going, I want to do something of value here. I want to do something spectacular here. I need this to feel XYZ way. And like, this probably, it was only formed even just in the edit bay as they were putting it together. But even the fact that it's this kind of faux wanna, I believe it's a faux wanna as opposed to an actual wanna. So much thought was put into. It wasn't gymnastics for the sake of a flex. It was gymnastics trying to evoke a specific positive reaction that was like almost ancestral, right? Not just for black people, but for everyone. Like white people will watch that scene and feel something they've never felt before. Ties to roots they don't even know they have ties to, right? It transcended cinema into the realm of the divine. Who is gonna beat this man at Best Picture? Please be for real. Please be for real. No one does it like Ryan Coogler. No one. Anyway, I say all that to say that's the technical reason why Sinners will win Best Picture, but I can tell you the more specific reason that it will win Best Picture. The economic model of this film, the attention to detail and artisanship, which would put him and Frankenstein and Guillermo del Toro on the same plane, and how Ryan Coogler talks about filmmakers, who are the people who vote for the Academy Awards. You have to have been a filmmaker to vote in these awards. Filmmakers want something like this to win at this point in the current situation. Negotiations are about to start for all of the unions in like the next year or so. And they want to use the tools at their disposal, such as the Academy Awards, to reward films like Sinners for being sinners and say this is excellence, and you can't do this. Ryan Coogler didn't do this with, Claude AI. Ryan Coogler didn't do this with ChatGPT. Ryan Coogler did it from his brain because he's good, right? And that is what the industry wants to communicate to producers, to financiers. This is what the Oscars can be used for, as a vehicle towards changing the attitudes around how films are made, because you're rewarding something in a very specific way because it does that, because it was made that way, right? And they need a win like that. Any film on this list could technically lead them in that direction, except I believe maybe Formula One wouldn't take them in that direction. If we award Formula One Best Picture, first off, that is not going to happen. If it happens, there will be people will start to question the validity of the votes, right? It's not happening. But I think most of the films on this list could save cinema if they were nominated. I just think no film on this list makes that statement more clear or more clearly than Sinners, except maybe Frankenstein. Right? This idea of films that are made by filmmakers that have this big appeal but also depth, and are also hiring tons of real life people to do their real work, and they're artisans, and it's all craftsmanship and so on and so forth. Like the two films that would be like the activist decision would be Sinners and Frankenstein, and I'm not seeing the momentum for Frankenstein that I'm seeing for Sinners. So I think Sinners will win based on that, and I believe Sinners will win based on the fact that it operates on multiple thematic planes at once. So that's my best picture analysis. I was going to go through all of the rest of these, but I think, like I've just told you, most of these are going to be on the basis of trying to vote in the cinematic future that cinema makers, that film makers want to see. And so I think a lot of these wins will go to people, like I think Arco could very much be animated feature film over K-pop Demon Hunters, because they have a vested interest in kind of giving the awards to people who they believe have, which we're in an era of trying to prove that AI can't do the jobs of filmmakers. So the people that will win are the people that the Academy believes, and the Academy is not some nebulous group of people. It is the any dude bro, any Paul Thomas Anderson, Christopher Nolan ass motherfucker you've heard talking about film over the last year, they are the ones that vote. So when they talk about FAI, and when they talk about AI can't do our jobs, and when they talk about real movie stars, classic movie stars, we don't have enough classic movie stars, that's the 60-year-old toff that's voting, that did their last final vote yesterday or today or whatever. This is the final day of voting or whatever. So the people that will win a lot of these are going to be people who the Academy believes have exerted a huge amount of craftsmanship, visible craftsmanship in their work, right? So they will win because that's how they're going to steer things. So if you were to ask me, I think Leo DiCaprio might win leading role. I want Ethan Hawke to win. But again, I believe Michael B. Jordan will win. It could be Leo because they want to do classic movie star, but it will be Michael B. Jordan, because he played two different characters so beautifully and with complete nuance and craftsmanship. The person that did the most on this list, who people will want to say, you see, AI can't do that. AI can't do that. AI can't be a human being existing in two places and being two separate human beings. AI can't do that. AI can synthesize two Michael B. Jordans, but it cannot be Michael B. Jordan in both of those roles, right? This is where, I think this is where most of the voting energy is going. Who do we need to provide gold to so that I have a job next year? Is the thinking. This is union negotiations in Hollywood. They don't waste a single opportunity to advocate, like the general body politic of the Academy, to advocate for what they want. Which is partially why I don't think any Palestinian films are winning this year, because all of your Palestinian activism has gone too far, and these Hollywood people are sick and tired of your bullshit, right? You know, we're at that point now where David Ellison is trying to buy Warner Brothers just after we found out that this Paramount has a blacklist of people who are anti-Israel, and they aren't hiring those people. So, we've gotten to a point where I don't think Hind Rajab or these vital films are going to get the recognition they deserve. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. So I think Michael B. Jordan will win actor in leading. I think Delroy Lindo should win in supporting. I believe he will. I think the only other person that might give him a run for his money is Jacob Elordi. Remember, we're talking craft. We're talking what can't AI do? AI can't do what Jacob Elordi did in Frankenstein. But also, AI really, really can't do what Delroy Lindo did in Sinners. Like, I don't think a computer could ever do that, even if it got really good. If it got really good, it might be able to synthesize Jacob Elordi's performance. If it became like supercomputer levels. But no supercomputer could do the existential nuance that Delroy Lindo had in that monologue in Sinners. So, like, to me, if you want to be tactical about it, it's Delroy. Because you want to, and you also want to, in my opinion, again, if we're being tactical and political about it, versus what I believe, which is that Delroy Lindo should win it because he was the best performance. If you want to be tactical about it, the other thing is you want to vote for somebody and vote for someone to win who has spent a long time in this industry, put in those hours, shown up for this industry as a person throughout the years. Like, you want that person to win, if not just to say, this is a viable career path for decades to come, right? You too could put in that work and do that work and show up for the work and show up for the stories and show up for the industry and be rewarded in the end. It's not dying. It's not dead. It's still here. It still has a path for you. It still has a future for you. And Delroy would be the ultimate choice for that. Controversial opinion. I don't think Sean Penn or Stellan Skarsgård should have been nominated for their performances. I don't think they were doing particularly interesting work in those films. Benicio is fine to be there, but it's going to Delroy, I think. I think it should go to Delroy. I think it's 50-50 between Delroy and Elordi. I think Elordi could steal it because, again, craft. Actress Jessie Buckley. Okay. I don't think I've seen If I Had Legs. I've not heard great things about Song Sung Blue, but apparently the girls, one person I know liked it. Renate, I believe is her name, did a great job in Sentimental Value. And Emma Stone did okay in Begonia. Where on earth is Amanda Seyfried? I will never be over it. I will never be over it. Where is Amanda Seyfried? You know she put in some of her best work in her career in that film. You know it. She should be nominated at the very least, but she wasn't gonna win to Jessie Buckley. Jessie Buckley is Jessie Buckley's. Actress in supporting role. I want it to be Wunmi. I fear it will go to Amy Madigan, and I think everyone will be okay with that. Because I believe people, again, craft. Again, rewarding those who've put in the work over generations in this industry. That kind of thing. They may see this as being Madigan's award, but I think Wunmi did more, in my opinion, craft-wise. Again, just because there was more to work with in Sinners. I think all of these films, one of the big things that almost all these films share in common, except maybe one battle after another, is they keep hitting the same thematic line. So there's only one theme to play into as a character. Whereas Wunmi had so much more range across that film. She had the I'm not getting involved, to the I'm involved, to the I'm protecting, to the I've sacrificed. There was so much to do. There was so much to do, and contexts of the film kept flipping from profound historical period drama to vampire blockbuster action flick. And so there's so much more there, right? I know there's a lot of that range in Weapons as well, but I don't think anywhere near the amount of range, right? Animated feature film, I know less about these, but I think it's going to be, again, I don't know that K-pop Demon Hunters wins this. If they do, I'd be over the moon because I think it was a brilliant film, but I don't think it's a film that will win an Oscar. I think I could see Arco, like, this is the category that Flo was in. Was it last year or the year before? Right. So like they are rewarding a lot of films that provide a certain level of craftsmanship. That's where we are now. We're fighting against computers. So finding that artisanship, who did the most amount of work, who put their body on the line, who has put their life, their entire career into this. Like, it's investment. We're in that point of trying to prove it's worth investing your life, your craftsmanship, your detail into this. And it'll be the same, all the way down from, casting and cinematography. I think cinematography, again, has to go to Sinners. Costume design, directing, Ryan, obviously. Everyone else did great. Joaquin Trier did great. Paul Thomas Anderson did great. Josh Safdie did great. Chloe Zhao did great. I would say those are the 4 other movies that stand any chance against Sinners in any other category. Like, that's it. In directing, you have every bit of except maybe The Secret Agent. The Secret Agent, I think, should be in there. But literally, that's the field. That's the field. And Sinners will sweep that, I think. Ryan Coogler will win. Documentary feature film, I'm going to do a bit more research into. I'm going to try and watch all of these before the ceremony because I've not watched them, but I have watched The Perfect Neighbor, and I don't know if it will win, but I do know that it has been pushing very hard for a win. So I've seen less push from the other 4. I've seen a lot more push from The Perfect Neighbor. Short film, we know this one. My Eliana Martel covered this for us at TIFF, which apparently was absolutely heartbreaking. It's about kind of the empty rooms left behind by school shooting victims in the US. I don't know any of these others, which is very strange for me. I'm usually very up on short film. But yeah, film editing, all of this is going to be down to people trying to, international, I think this is where they'll give it to The Secret Agent, but I feel there's something here that would be a gorgeous moment, just to acknowledge art that is made around political themes, much like The Secret Agent, that can provide contexts like this one. Again, it's going to be down to craftsmanship, who they feel did the most work, and so on and so on. Again, I've seen none of these, but I've heard very big pushes for this one, A Friend of Dorothy, Jane Austen's period drama, and Two People Exchanging Saliva. Those are the ones that I've seen a lot of push for. So we'll see. And again, all of the rest of these, it's going to be down to who did the most amount of work. Let's see music. Let's see. I Lied to You I Lied to You is from that scene in the middle. Yeah. That's winning. Let's not beat around the bush. Sound, visual effects, writing, again, it's going to be who did the most. I think in adapted, the person who did the most is probably Paul Thomas Anderson, and in writing, obviously the person who did the most to me is Sinners. Although I've not read It Was Just an Accident, I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know if that's more of a complex screenplay. But so far, Sinners is the one out of this list that I know that was the most complex. I wouldn't consider Blue Moon very complex at all. It was very good. It was a lot of monologues, but it's not complex to write. It's not a complex structure. Again, they're going to be looking for the stuff that proves the most amount of work and grit. And we did so much. And that's why so many of the nominees this year are showing you all of the behind the scenes of how hard it was and how much they did, etc. and so forth. So the next thing I'm going to quickly do, because before we do hot takes and rec of the week, is I'm going to go over what's happening with the Paramount merger. Now, David Ellison and Larry Ellison, if you don't already know, are ghouls. Very, very bad ghouls. Trying to eat up a lot of the American entertainment infrastructure in favor of Israeli interests and in favor of American interests. They are very heavily aligned with Donald Trump. No bueno, bad guys we don't like. So this merger, and we don't like Zaslav either, which is a whole other conversation we can have. I think the first ever episodes of the podcast that was to become the Obscure magazine, the very first podcast, Nerd You, back in the day, if you were around, that very first podcast was the one where I was discussing the movement of Warner Brothers from the Zack Snyder era to the Zaslav era, and there's so much history there. But I want to discuss one aspect of this that may save us. Paramount's $110 billion Warner Brothers deal, backed by Arab sovereign funds, raises soft power concerns, which frickin' hilarious for Americans to talk about soft power concerns. Now we're concerned about soft power. Okay. Now we're worried. Now we're worried that we might have power over people based on whether or not we own media corporations. Interesting. I want to discuss how debt is currently interacting with the Paramount Warner Brothers deal. If you don't know, Paramount is in debt. And so is Warner Brothers. And people think, because they see finances and these deals as looking a lot like their kitchen table bills, that Warner Brothers is being bought because it has debt. right? Well, they're in debt, so they need to sell. That is not what's happening. Companies this big, companies this huge, that are on stock exchanges, that run economies, right? That are this big, right? Don't need to sell because they're in debt. They don't need to sell because they're in debt. It's not like if you're in debt and you need to sell your couch to make a little bit of money to pay back the debt. That's not what's happening. They could have gotten a loan from a bank. They could have, and they probably already have, right? They could have gone to the Saudis themselves, right? They don't need to sell. Warner Brothers wants to sell because a merger acquisition post Paramount decree, which we'll talk about in a second, a merger acquisition makes money for the C-suite, right, of that corporation. They want to sell because they want to sell. They want to make a little bit of money. They don't want to sell because they need to. They want to sell Warner Brothers, right? And that is a decision that the top line people make. They don't want to fight anymore. They don't want to go ask for loans anymore. They don't want to have to go and dilly-dally, fish-fosh, etc. and so forth. They made the decision to sell. Paramount was about to lose. Like, Paramount lost. Like, Netflix put in a deal and Paramount lost. Warner Brothers accepted the deal with Netflix. Warner Brothers was agnostic in this. You know, I don't doubt that half of them voted for Trump or whatever, but like, they don't care. They speak money. They don't speak Democrat and Republican. They agreed and they handshook with Netflix to the point that this is something that's actually going to put Paramount even more in the hole. Because Paramount then came out and launched a hostile bid against Netflix for Paramount, going straight to the shareholders, which is to say, Paramount and Netflix had shaken hands. This is the price. We're done. We're locking it in. If you pull out of this deal now, you owe me $2 billion. Boom, boom, boom. Like, done. And Paramount ran into the room and said, hey, everyone stop. Everyone stop. I'll bribe all of you to the tune of like 1.5 times the price per share. How do we feel about that? I could pay you 3 times the share, 4 times the share. They just came in and started betting against Netflix, and Netflix had to now go into a hostile, like, it's not how these things are done, right? But they did it, and they won. Why did they win? I was convinced they weren't going to win, because in an ideal scenario, right, number one, Paramount doesn't come in that hot and heavy. Number two, it's not money Paramount has. Paramount are also in debt. And then number three, I'm going, they did a handshake deal with Netflix. They don't want to piss off Netflix. They're not going to win. Like, Paramount can throw all the money they want at this, idiots. You know, they're going, how much would it take to bribe you to give it to us? How much? We'll go up. How much would it take? They'd already shaken hands. So there comes a point where Netflix may scorch earth and go, well, anyone from Paramount, we're not dealing with, right? And these are big titans that have to deal with one another. And they may just go, after that, screw Paramount. We're not dealing with you, we're not dealing with them, we're not dealing with anybody. Everyone can get in the bin. So I didn't think Paramount were going to win because I knew that the connections in Hollywood mean more than any cash you can throw at it. But there's one thing that could have stopped this deal. And that is, it is rumored that when Ted Sarandos went to Washington and tried to see what the deal was, he was basically told that if Warner Brothers went with Netflix at this point, they would do everything they could. The Trump administration would do everything they could to make sure that deal did not get regulatory approval. That they would not be allowed to go through with that deal. And then it turns out it was breaking, was it today? Or it was actually, I don't know if it was Variety or IndieWire, but someone broke the story that Netflix had, Donald Trump had bought a bunch of Netflix, or bought a bunch of Netflix debt, or some kind of something. Hold on, let me do IndieWire. And by the way, I'm looking up all of this stuff on, you know, media companies that are owned by some other guy that owns all of these. IndieWire, Variety, all of these. He owns the Golden Globe, the Golden Globes. I can't remember his name, but like, he's also another one of these Larry Ellison, David Ellison guys. Where is it? It came out today. Which one will it be? It'll be all of them. It came out today. I can't find it. But basically that there's some kind of amount of something from Netflix that Trump bought, which was clearly the final little bit of bribe that Netflix needed to pull out of the deal and say, fine, it's yours. This was not a done deal. Paramount has way more, like, not way more debt. Paramount has a lot of debt, and Warner Brothers has a lot of debt. This was not a debt act. This was not like, oh, we're broke, we need someone to buy us. And also, Paramount are about to go into way more debt. Way more debt now. Buying this. And it's not good debt. It's Saudi debt. Like, this was a play for influence. This was not a play for money. This was a play for influence. And I believe part of the reason they were so hawkish on this is they looked at Warner Brothers last year. Because remember, all of this push that the Ellisons have done has been in since like November, December. Don't think they're not paying attention. They are. Just because you think it's frivolous that Sinners and Superman and One Battle After Another all came out from Warner Brothers in 1 year, and all 3 of them pretty fucking progressive movies. Don't think that doesn't mean shit. It does. It does. Suddenly, November, December, they want to launch a hostile takeover. They want to launch a hostile bid. They want to start push. Paramount, by any means. The Ellisons, by any means necessary, must own Warner Brothers after that year. And everyone goes, whoa, because they made so much money. Movies make money, movies lose money. Movies are a risky business. Movies are an influence business. Debt is just part of the game. It's numbers on a spreadsheet for these guys. Influence is what they're after. And if we now are going to live in a world where Warner Brothers, the Warner Brothers that would give Ryan Coogler the deal they gave him for Sinners, the Warner Brothers that would let Paul Thomas Anderson make One Battle After Another, however flawed it may be, the Warner Brothers that would let James Gunn get away with a decidedly anti-somebody, man, movie, you know, like it's anti-strong guy, you know, you could call him a Trump figure, you call him a Putin figure, you call him a Netanyahu figure, whoever that was dropped from the sky, that was a statement. And Superman is a very strong statement, and you let someone into the house like James Gunn, you are going to get that statement. You know, he's not scared of shit. That's James Gunn. But no, the collective thing that just happened with Warner Brothers, don't take it for granted. Don't expect that because you think it's frivolous, that it is frivolous. And they pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. Like, there came a point, as I was hearing about these back and forths, where I was like, this has stopped being about the value of Warner Brothers, because this is not the value of Warner Brothers. This is bribery. This is bribery. Someone needs Warner Brothers under their control, and they will do anything, bribe anyone, pay any price. Now, what's funny to me is that same system that means the Ellisons want to own Warner Brothers is the same system that has clamored for a war in Iran, and that same system is going to be the system that may mean they don't have the money for this deal, because 110 billion deal is backed by the sovereign funds of Arab states that now are at war with Iran. Wars aren't cheap. The Americans have completely abandoned the Arab states right now in that area. They're not defending any of the American bases, and they're not defending any of the Gulf states at all. And Iran is just sending these very slow drones, just like, because no one's stopping them. And that same sovereign wealth that is currently being bombed by Iran is the same sovereign wealth backing the Paramount bid. So you see how they're not smart, they're just powerful. Because if they were worth their weight in intelligence in gold, sorry, I had to make the gold thing. I'm Sudanese, like, I had to say something. If they were actually worth their weight in Sudanese gold, okay, they would have been able to see this coming. Why did they use Saudi-backed or Arab-backed sovereign funds for this deal, when they knew that they were eventually going to start a war in that region and these sovereign funds would no longer be disposable to them? Nothing in the heads. Woo! Empty. Before we continue, let me quickly have a little check at the chat, see if anybody's here. There may be absolutely 0 people here, which is all good, it's all fine. Yeah? Okay, cool. Okay, hot take. I think I've already given my hot take. I think a lot of people think industry runs the same way that your kitchen table bills work. And so when this Paramount merger came to pass, people were trying to understand it in the lens of their own kitchen bills. And so a lot of people came into the comments of one of my recent videos and were talking about Warner Brothers was in a lot of debt. And it's like, yeah, they all are. All of these companies are in a lot of debt. Movies are a risky, risky, risky business. Really risky. And this is why I said independent cinema wasn't going to save us in its current state, because it is also just as risky. It has not at all managed to spread its risk across different issues. I mean, the risk has not happened in indie cinema yet. And yes, you will need to somewhat set up a system a little bit like the studio system in order to have anything solid for independent cinema. But the point of independent cinema is not to remain small, art house, and low budget, and to remain risk averse because that money is tight. The definition of independent cinema is independent, right? And so the money needs to be independent money, right? This is what we're seeing with Paramount and Warner Brothers versus independent cinema. When people say we need to go to independent cinema, what they're really saying is we need to go to independent interests. Because the only people that can fund movies at the level we are used to are millionaires and billionaires. And there aren't many liberal millionaires and billionaires, and certainly not many that want to risk that money on filmmaking, right? Or films that are against them, or films that are political, right? It is always going to benefit big interests and big money to make movies that benefit those big interests and big money, right? What independent cinema needs to do, if we're not going to lose Ryan Coogler's, is diversify its income streams hugely and expand its distribution model so that we can gain power from the audience and give back to the audience in equal fare. That's my hot take. This up and down capitalistic model of filmmaking is the independent scene will never compete then with the big studios. Ever. And I'm not even, this is actually in the right circles, this is a cold take. This is not a hot take. Independent cinema cannot save us as it is because independent cinema exists right now as a vassal state of the major studios. It's not just a pipeline for people to just go to major studios. It quite literally is vassalized. It doesn't have the resources of the major studios. Sometimes it's even relying on resources from major studios. Some independent studios, part of the reason they even have any funds to begin with is because they managed to sell something to Paramount. Or they managed to, I don't know, do a deal with Netflix. Or like they are dependent wholly on the distribution models of the major studio system because those are the only ones that currently exist at scale. We need to scale up the distribution models. It's not going to be tough to do. Scale up the distribution models of independent cinema so that independent interests and independent money can fuel independent stories. Because, of course, the major studios aren't going to want another Sinners. Of course, they're going to prevent that at any means necessary. And the reason they're going to prevent that is because they have the power to. They have the power to because they have the money. They have the money because they are the kinds of people that films such as Superman are critiquing, right? So it's a circle. You know, the fact that James Gunn is managing to get a critique of, you know, Lex Luthor, the billionaire, in there, right, is a fluke. It's not the kind of film these systems are built to make. It's not the kind of film these systems will proliferate ad infinitum until we are all free and liberated, right? I also just want to say this week has been very difficult for a lot of people around the world. It impacted by this war, but also who feel for the people who have been tied up in it, who have been subjected to it by American and Israeli imperial interests in the region. And so I'm sending my love to everyone in Iran and everyone outside of Iran that is currently being bombarded by some of the most cruel military action that we have seen in recent years, some of the most cruel and illegal actions we have seen by both those governments and then also anyone who is in the line of fire as the Iranians retaliate. It's an awful situation that could have been prevented by just not provoking Iran by sending a preemptive strike into a sovereign country. I am in no way endorsing the regime of Iran. That's not my business. I just know how the imperial war machine works. And too many people I know, and too many people who know people I know, are either actively being threatened by this current war, or who have family who have either been affected or killed. And so take some time. This is a very serious thing that is happening. It is not just a news broadcast. It is not just a little piece of something that comes across your Instagram feed. This is a very, very serious conflict with incredibly far-reaching consequences. And we have had to watch the inhumanity over the past couple of years in Gaza, what they are willing to do. And we feel that that is where this is heading. And I know a lot of people in my circle feel that is intolerable, and I feel it as intolerable as well. So I'm sending my love to all of you. I'm sending my solidarity to all of you. May there be peace in the Middle East, inshallah. Once everyone leaves the Middle East alone and stops meddling in sovereign countries' rights to self-determination within their own borders. It helps no one that the Americans are saying and that the Israelis are saying that they are aligned with any and every attempt the Iranians in Iran try to reform their own governments and reform their own institutions. It doesn't help. It makes things actively worse and puts good people, innocent people, in danger and or gets them killed because the Americans want to be able to meddle while some people are trying to get their country back. They want to meddle and for their own means, and I just find it horrific. And I look forward to this all being over as quickly as possible and the Iranian people being given a chance to self-determine and do the things that are best for them within their own country without external imperial ambitions being projected onto them. Give me one moment. Quite the time for the bell to ring. And I will end the broadcast here with Wreck of the Week. This has been a really great episode. I have had a fun time kind of getting into the nitty gritty with you guys. I think my Wreck of the Week is gonna have to be, this is tough because do I go for a film that helps explain where we are right now, or, in terms of geopolitics, or do I go for a film that helps in terms of the Oscars? I think I want to go the Oscars route. I'd love to recommend for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, I'm Still Here, which was the Brazilian film that was in competition at the Oscars last year. And it's a fantastic, fantastic film, and I think it won, was it International Feature last year? I can't remember. But it won a major award last year. It was really amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It is, again, a film set in, actually, it's unironically, it matches both, because it is about living under a fascist dictatorship and how they treat people and how they disappear people, and it leaves a really awful sick feeling in the bottom of your stomach, but also it activates you as a film, I think, into a certain level of action and camaraderie with the people around you. And with that, it has been an hour. It's been just over an hour. Thank you for joining us on the Sophisticulture podcast. Hopefully we'll have a little bonus episode for you next week when me and Amaris shoot the shit about Marty Supreme, because we have very different opinions on Marty Supreme. I liked it. So we'll be having some fun with that hopefully next week, and take very good care of yourselves, especially now. Keep one eye on the skies in all circumstances. Anyone can get it at this point. It looks like everyone can get it at this point. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and we'll see you next week, or maybe even sooner. Bye.